Welcome into this Monday edition of the Oxford Exxon Podcast. Chase Parham, Neal, McCready, Clark Ford Studio here this afternoon, literally 12:30, just after noon, coming to you to start the week. We'll talk some baseball, some basketball, some football recruiting, accusations out there that are just unfounded and impossible.
No way.
We'll hit those as well. And Blake Lovell will join us, college basketball, here in about 27 minutes. So in segment number 2 for the show today, the show brought to you every single day by the Oxford Exxon, Highway 6 West in Oxford. Download the Speed Pass Plus app. Take advantage of it there with all Blue Sky locations in Mississippi. You can earn points and save money with the Oxford Exxon. You can also stop into the hot case inside the convenience store, get some barbecue, some chicken, some side items, and more, including the lunch special that's $5.69, 2 sides of bread, 32-ounce drink. So take advantage of that. And again, coming to you from the Clark Ford Studio.
We are Clark Ford's in Amory, Mississippi. 662-257-1900 is the number. Call it. Ask for Corey Clark. Tell Corey what Ford product you're looking for. He'll send you a quote within 15 minutes in business hours, right to the bottom line. No hassle, no haggle. You get your quote. The rest is totally up to you. You can shop that quote around, or you can do what I've done, what I recommend that you do. Let's hop into a Clark Ford today. You will love the service. You'll love the product. Corey and the people at Clark Ford, they want to be your car guy. They want to be your truck guy. Guys, gals, whatever the proper term is these days. And they'll prove it to you when you make the call, 662-257-1900. It was a busy weekend at Rafters Music and Food on the Square in Oxford, which is awesome. So it would also be a great week this week to go check out everything at Rafters. Be a great place to watch the SEC basketball tournament, which begins on Wednesday night. Ole Miss plays the late game on Thursday. If it wins, it plays the late game on Friday. And the other stuff too, college baseball. I think Ole Miss is in town against one of my former now disassociated alma maters. It's the battle of disassociated McCready alma maters this weekend in Oxford, ULM and Ole Miss. One school's disowned me, one school I've disowned. It's like a lot of tension there. I ought to just go out and speak to everyone. Anyway, that's this weekend. If you want to watch that on the screens while you enjoy some cold ones, while you enjoy a burger, some beverages, po' boys, appetizers, the whole deal, full bar there at Rafters Music and Food on the Square in Oxford and also in New Albany.
So that disassociation came from the Terry Bowden experience?
Yes. I mean, I applied for the job.
Pretty low bar there for disassociation.
Well, let's talk about this for a minute. I applied for the job. I told them I would take the job for significantly less than market value. Not only did I not get a call back.
There's a market for football coaches in FBS. Below market value. I'm just trying to get a gauge here.
There's a market value for a Sun Belt football coach.
Okay.
Not only did I not get a call back, they insulted me by hiring somebody who is actually worse than me.
You don't have high expectations for the Bowden era in Monroe.
If I tell you you can have a head coach today, and it's a 51-year-old guy who knows to go out and hire people and let them do their job, or to hire 70-year-old Terry Bowden, who do you want?
Because that would have been your pitch, right? I'm just going to hire dudes and completely let them coach.
I'm just going to be a guy that sits at the top. I'm going to be hand raise guy.
Y'all do what you do.
Dude, let's talk about it. Hey, what if? Just asking. I'd have hired an offense guy to run the offense, a defense guy to run the defense, a recruiting coordinator to coordinate recruiting.
Special teams coach.
And we would have just managed.
Get back coach.
A get back coach. Actually, I'd be so scared of getting run over that you wouldn't have to get me back.
You wouldn't need to be getting back.
Nope. So,
okay.
When you hire Terry Bowden, it's an insult. I mean, go make a real hire.
Odds aren't good.
I mean, if you hire like a Kane Womack or something, I'm like, hey, I'm in. I get it. I understand.
A little more experience. Football knowledge and whatnot. Acumen.
You know who sent me a box full of gear, by the way, don't you?
I do.
Louisiana Tech. It's some nice stuff. I did my big long run yesterday in my Louisiana Tech shirt. It was perfect for the run.
Adidas.
So now I'll be wearing it on my Sunday runs. Yeah. How about that?
You got was it shorts and
they sent me a hat.
Running gear?
They sent me a hat. Let's see. It's a nice hat.
Oh, it's not bad.
No, it's
Attractive enough.
yeah. So they sent me a hat, one of those baseball coaching pullover kind of things. The half you see coaches wear all the time, so that they can hide the fact that they're not wearing a jersey.
Mm-hmm.
And then a t-shirt.
Okay.
And a polo.
Oh, so pretty good run of stuff there.
Yeah, send me some nice stuff. Appreciate the people in Ruston.
Yeah.
So what I'm thinking about is having a Power 5 school and then a Group of 5 school. And so if I do that, don't tell Kane, but Louisiana Tech will be my Group of 5.
Oh.
It's going to stir some people up because, I mean, I have a really good friend who's a football coach now in the Sun Belt. And I have a basketball coach who's a good friend who's in, what are they in, CUSA?
Who are we talking about?
UAB.
Oh, Andy, sorry.
Yeah. Yep. So there you go.
So you're getting the small schools really taken care of.
I mean, I got a lot of connections at the small school level right now, except for the one that I went to. Couldn't get them to even listen to me.
You try? You didn't ask Monroe for gear.
I didn't ask them for gear, but
although you didn't ask Tech for gear either.
No, I campaigned for the gig, and Tech got in on it. And I do have 12 semester hours from Louisiana Tech, so I'm technically an alumnus. So there you go.
You going to break down the Royal interview last night, or we going to move on into sports? What are we going to do?
I thought you were going to break down the Royal interview. Harry and Meghan.
I followed on Twitter for a few minutes just for the odd enjoyment I got out of it.
Yeah.
I can't drum up any care
No.
at all.
No.
I just when that becomes something that's really taking your focus for the day, you live a pretty good, either a really good life or a really sad existence, one or the other. And I'm not sure there's anything in the middle.
So let me see if I got this straight, Harry.
Uh-huh.
You're born into
Literal royalty.
wealth and royalty. People,
Somebody's walking around your house.
yeah, the landscaping
Okay,
people.
gotcha.
And I hope if it's somebody else, we'll find out.
We'll
here
deal
soon.
with it in a second.
Yeah. He's born into royalty in an archaic system that assures him a life of luxury.
You think it's archaic?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, go ahead.
He is weighted on hand and foot. He decides, for whatever reason or reasons, that he doesn't want that anymore. He picks Meghan Markle, of all people, announces that he's going to give up his
seat at the table,
his succession to the potential throne.
Okay.
And now he wants to be a victim? No, come on. Now, look, you want to do all that? That's cool. You live once. Do your thing. But don't try to make me feel sorry for you.
He's still going to be all right.
He's fine. I mean, is that what you want to do? She'd rather have her than be the Prince of England. Okay.
Did we miss anything, Kevin? He says, my wife talked to me about that interview for 30 minutes straight this morning. I'm mad I cannot get those minutes back.
And I wasn't going to say it, but Avery just did. She says she's pretty, but she's not Kate Upton.
You got a point.
I do.
Okay.
At the risk of coming across as very misogynist here. If I'm the Prince of England and you're asking me to give up my princeness for a woman, she's probably going to be better looking and less of a head case than Meghan Markle.
That is one thing, Daniel, I don't really understand is, and I know it's just the archaic system, but I mean, like, there's no purpose in 2020. Like, 2021, sorry. Like, what?
I mean, I don't know all that. That's above, that, to me, that's a separate conversation than
what is their power versus actual elected officials? I don't know. I have no clue.
I don't know.
Like, I haven't even watched The Crown. I don't like it. I mean,
The Crown was pretty interesting.
Yeah, not my
and
thing.
So what I loved was the memes when they showed the people that write The Crown watching that, and as soon as it was over, scrambling to go produce the next season of The Crown.
Oh, that's good.
It was good.
Yeah, because the latest Crown season was up to Diana, right?
Yeah, I think
they've gotten that far.
I think so.
Through the.
I might have some Crown to catch up on.
Okay. Yeah, not my thing, but.
So whatever.
I'm trying to decide whether to take the plunge into catching up on comic book movies enough to watch WandaVision is my current deal right now.
Leif says the heart wants what the heart wants. And Avery's response, the heart wants generational wealth. I'm glad it's one of our 4% that is making these comments because I can just say, hey, that's what Avery said.
So it's complete figurehead. GT, like seriously, like they can't do anything. There is no.
I don't think
literal power at all.
No, I don't think they could launch a war on Iran or something.
I get they don't have the nuclear code sitting by the throne.
I don't think they could say, you know what? I'm so sick of Spain. Let's go get them. I think they're just tourism.
What are we yesing and saying, Ryan and Drew? What are we talking about? I've been rambling for WandaVision. Okay, yeah. See, here's the deal on that though, and God, we're going to talk sports at some point. Is you guys can make fun, other than like the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man and maybe like Batman up until the really bad one with George Clooney. I don't know that I've seen a comic book movie. Like, I've seen no movies in the Marvel Universe at all. So
I've seen a few of them.
See, I've watched none.
I've seen the ones that Carson dragged me to.
I've never seen a Star Wars all the way through. I've never seen Lord of the Rings at any point. I haven't even watched 10 minutes of it.
I haven't seen Lord of the Rings either.
So, and again, y'all can make fun, but my point being, I am interested in WandaVision, mostly for the sitcom callbacks, if I'm honest. So I asked some people over the weekend, what do I have to watch to get caught up enough? I know I'm going to miss some Easter eggs no matter what, but what can I watch to be caught up enough to at least give it a chance? And I was told Age of Ultron and then the two latest Avengers, Endgame and whatever the other one is. So I'm probably going to at least give that a shot, then watch WandaVision, and then if I'm interested, I will go back. And I've got a list of all the movies in chronological order, as in like when they take place in the world. So not my thing, but that's kind of where we are right now. So
okay.
Anyway, yeah. I don't know. It's just you sit around Nick Suss long enough in press boxes and you start doing things. What do you want to do? Basketball since we're going into Blake?
Yeah, I guess so. SEC tournament set.
6th seed for the Rebels.
Let me just go ahead and tell you guys.
South Carolina.
Next season, Ole Miss will either be the 3, the 6, or the 11. So book it.
So pick one of those based off what you think the
or 14. They're going to play the late game. 3, 6, 11, and 14. Those are the only possibilities that Ole Miss
Neal is a little bitter by the fact that he believes that he has an impact on them playing late games in the SEC basketball tournament.
I cheered so hard for Florida yesterday until it started to get away. Florida had like a 10-point lead and was about to go up 13, and I was like, come on, just because I wanted that 215 spot.
So what is tip going to actually be? I don't mean schedule. What's it actually going to be?
So it's 25 minutes after the 6 o'clock game. So the 6 o'clock game is going to go until 8:10.
Okay.
So 8:35-ish would be my guess. I've covered this before where it started at 8:50, and I've covered it where it started at 8:25.
It's better than the late game in Hoover.
I've covered the late games in Hoover.
It's much worse.
Awful.
Because it's a 4-hour game.
I will say the year that you screwed me and made me have to cover the whole tournament, they played nothing but early games.
I told you they'd be gone by Friday. Fine.
You did. They're like, oh, they'll be out by Friday. You'll be home by Friday.
Yeah.
And they lost on Wednesday, and I'm like, yeah, no. Yeah. And they were losing on Thursday, and I was like, man, I'm going to be home by 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
I was home Sunday night.
Yeah. I mean, I've had some Hoover ones that have been like 2:30 in the morning before you get out of that place. I mean, some late nights.
I have too. I covered when I was covering Auburn back in the day, they played a game against Alabama that did not start until 9-something, and then it rained, and they kept going. I can't remember what they must have played till 2:30.
So anyway,
yep.
Schizophrenic Ole Miss beats Vanderbilt up pretty handedly. They kind of screwed around the last 4 or 5 minutes, but
had one of their
the game.
Had one of their better team games Their team defense was phenomenal. Devontae Shuler got in foul trouble early, then got in foul trouble again. Only played 16 minutes, I think. KJ Buffin suffered the injury that we all worry about in sports.
He did.
And he could not continue, which gives you an idea of just how bad that was, because usually when that happens, 5 minutes later
takes a minute.
You feel okay.
He did not.
He did not. Tells me that he really got popped.
You heard anything since then?
This is going to be okay. A couple of days. It's going to be all right. He was telling him after the game that he was better. It just took him, instead of a couple of minutes, it took him a couple of hours.
Yeah, 16 minutes. 5 points for Devontae Shuler.
I think KJ played 7 minutes.
7 minutes.
And so, if you told Kermit before the game you're going to get 23 minutes combined out of KJ and Devontae, he'd have said, uh-oh. And some guys really stepped up. I thought Matthew Morrell had one of his best games. I thought Sammy Hunter had a good game. It doesn't necessarily show up in the stats, but I thought they both played well. I thought Austin Crowley played well. Romello was very good. Jarkel had one of his better games in an Ole Miss uniform. They did a lot of things. It was kind of a team win. And like you said, they built a 25-point lead, and they did not play particularly well the last 4 or 5 minutes. And Vanderbilt, to their credit, kept going. And Vanderbilt made it.
Yeah, I mean, it was 49-24.
Yeah.
And they won 56-49. I mean, 56-46.
Yeah, Vanderbilt played to the end. Yeah. Give them credit for that. And Ole Miss kind of took its foot off the gas, and that happens. But the outcome of the game never felt like it was in doubt. So Ole Miss wins, and they get South Carolina on Thursday night, probably around 8:30-ish. And if they beat South Carolina, they get LSU on Friday night, probably around 8:30-ish. And I don't want to steal Blake's thunder, but I think I know what the deal is. Chase, I think, based on the bubble today,
which is bad,
if Ole Miss beats South Carolina, I think it's playing LSU for a spot in the tournament. I think if Ole Miss beats LSU, they're in the tournament, and if they lose to LSU, they're not in the tournament. That's what I think.
You think they got to win 2 games?
I think they have to beat LSU, and to beat LSU, they have to beat South Carolina.
Sure.
Because if you don't beat South Carolina, you don't get to play LSU,
yeah.
Which means you won't beat them.
Analysis.
So if they win on Friday night, they're going to wake up on Saturday. They would play either Arkansas, Missouri, or Georgia. And if you're an Ole Miss fan, what your hope is,
you want Arkansas.
You want or Missouri's fine. You don't want Georgia.
Yeah.
You don't want the potential of a loss against a team that's higher, that's worse in the net than you are.
Because they've got that net back to 53.
Dropped one spot. Here's the problem.
Within some range.
Here's the problem. They're going to play South Carolina, whose net's around 133, 134, 132, somewhere in there. You have to beat them, obviously. But even when you beat them on a neutral, your net's going to drop a point or two because you're playing a team that's so crappy in the net. LSU's net is like 22-ish. They'll be in the low 20s would be my guess, unless they've really jumped, Chase. 28, okay. LSU's 28, so if you beat LSU on Friday night, that would give you a pretty high profile win that the committee would see. Mm-hmm. And then what's Arkansas's net's going to be around 19, 20?
Arkansas is 16.
Okay, 16, and Missouri's going to be in the mid-40s, I think.
45.
Okay, so if you're playing Arkansas, their net's still going to be right about where it is right now. Mm-hmm. And if you play Missouri, their net's going to be up because they would have beaten Georgia and Arkansas to get there.
Sure.
So on Saturday, you really can't get hurt if you're there. I think in that scenario, you're in the tournament. I do. Because the bubble sucks.
It always sucks, but it seems to suck more.
It really sucks this year. And then I'll reiterate this, and we'll ask Blake about this in a minute. What we don't know is what the committee's going to do this year as it pertains to net and strength of schedule and those things, when a lot of those things are more out of your control this year than ever before. Do you punish Ole Miss, for example? Memphis's net right now is around where Ole Miss is.
Right around Ole Miss.
50, 52, somewhere between 50 and 55, I believe.
52.
52. So if Ole Miss had played Memphis this year and Oxford and beaten them, there'd be a much prettier win right now. Mm-hmm. Well, that game got COVIDed. Ole Miss had a tournament they were going to play in Destin early in the year that involved Oklahoma State, I think, was in it. I can't remember who else was in it, but it was good teams. You know, that opportunity was
there were just fewer opportunities for everybody. I mean, you get stuck in your conference, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
And
so, but that's where we are. I mean, Ole Miss is the 6 because Tennessee won. So Tennessee's the 4, Florida's the 5, Alabama's the 1, Arkansas's the 2, LSU's the 3. And then, I don't know, who's the 7? The 7 is Missouri. Mm-hmm. The 8 is Kentucky.
Now you're leaving me at
the
losing me at
I
that
don't
point.
know after that.
Yeah. So
Ole Miss is the one team in the tournament, unless you subscribe to some belief that Kentucky can win 4 games in 4 days, and I don't think they can. Ole Miss is the one team in the tournament that truly, honest to God, has something tangible to play for.
You think Missouri's in?
Yes.
Okay. We'll ask Blake Lovell these questions in a few minutes. We'll tell you about Northeast Spark, NESPARC.com. Service people across rural communities. 2 packages, the 100 Mbps or the 1 gig. It powers the Clark, Florida studio. Your hometown team bringing you world-class broadband. NESPARC.com. 662-238-3159. Phone services available as well as parental controls, network security, and more. So call, find out if it's in your area or where you live, and if so, get on getting it there, as it is the best internet in town. Again, NESPARC.com, 662-238-3159.
Are you ready to play at M-Trade Park? Registration has started for both youth baseball and softball with the Oxford Park Commission. Cost to play both sports is $50 a player. Leagues available for children or kids, young people, whatever the term you want to use, 5 to 14 in softball, 5 to 17 in baseball. This year's season runs May 24th through July the 2nd. The deadline to register is April the 4th. Go to oxfordparkcommission.com to sign up. Brought to you by Lammons Fine Jewelry in Oxford. Lammons, located at 1126 North Lamar Boulevard in Oxford, has been serving the Oxford area for 73-plus years. Engagement rings, wedding rings, fine jewelry, watches, pearls, fashion jewelry, children's jewelry, collectibles, so much more. They're the gold standard in fine jewelry. LammonsFineJewelry.com or 662-234-2777. Also brought to you by Muddy Water Camo. Go to Muddy Water Outdoors. Actually, you don't have to enter a promo code or anything. Just go to Muddy Water Outdoors. You can still get that Tri-Zone heated jacket or vest. Buy one, get the other one for free. Buy a portable battery charger. It's $49. Get a second one for free. It's a great vest, great jacket. Like Chase has said many times, buy one for yourself. Get one for free. Go ahead and wrap that puppy, and you'll have a Christmas gift ready to go. It'll be that time of year before you know it. Speaking of that time of year, it's that time of the year when you wake up and it's cold. By the middle of the day, it's hot. And later in the night, it's cold. So you want your heating system to still work, and you want your air conditioner to start being ready to roll because it's coming around. So get in touch with the Comer Heating and Air. It's the name you can trust. They have more than 50 years of professional HVAC experience in Oxford, Tupelo, and the surrounding area. 662-801-1777 for all of your heating and cooling needs. We're also brought to you by the College Corner, your one-stop Rebel Shop. 2 locations in the Jackson area. In Ridgeland, it's next to Fleet Feet, and in Flowood, it's next to Half Shell. If you don't live in Jackson, it's not a problem. Go to collegecornerstore.com. Plus, you can find them on Facebook and Instagram. It's the largest selection of Rebel gear in central Mississippi.
Podcast also brought to you by Visit Oxford. Visit oxfordms.com is the website to see the calendar of events that have plenty of things starting to open up. A lot of different activities for Oxford here soon, including the double-decker bus tours, 3 and 4 o'clock each Friday of graduation, as well as SEC home baseball weekends. That's March 19th, April 9th, April 23rd, April 30th, May 7th, and May 14th. Also, plenty of different things going on, as well as the Oxford Film Festival. You can find out events for that at oxfordac.com/schedule. And much more. So plenty of stuff going on in Oxford right now, including those things. We'll have more content to you soon. So again, visit oxfordms.com. We'll go now to Blake Lovell and talk some college basketball. As probably reiterate a good bit that Neal and I said, but a little different knowledge of it. So we'll go now to Blake. If you're in our live stream,
keep talking for a minute because I just realized I had to restart this computer, so I've got to get
Skype and everything all up.
Yeah, punch that up. Normally it's wide open. Yesterday the audio wasn't working, and I was like, I'm going to restart everything, which was fine. Worked good after I restarted it, but now I'm having to open
it was all good at that point?
Yeah, everything was good.
Looks like Ole Miss moved up one spot or stayed the same in the baseball polls for the week, the polls that mean absolutely nothing no matter where Ole Miss or anyone else is ranked. The SEC, however, this does mean something. The top 5 in a row in the D1 baseball poll today.
Let me guess. Arkansas's 1.
Yeah.
Vanderbilt's 2.
I think in that one State's 2, but
Okay.
it might be Arkansas.
My guess was going to be State's 3.
Okay.
Ole Miss is 4.
Yeah.
Florida's 5.
I believe that's correct, yeah. No, sorry. Arkansas 1, Vandy 2, State 3, Ole Miss 4, Florida 5. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. Good luck. And Ole Miss plays Arkansas, State, and Florida in a row, I think, in the schedule. LSU might be in there somewhere too, but I think they're all in there in a row.
I mean, you're just going to get popped somewhere.
Yeah. With no ability to do anything about it. LSU had a really crappy week, by the way, losing 2 of 3 to Oral Roberts, including getting beat 22-7 on Friday.
This is my hot take because
Okay.
I like watching Rocker and Leiter pitch.
Okay.
They're better than Arkansas and Ole Miss right now.
Well, in a weekend, those two guys
That's what I mean.
over the top. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't mean
I've
overall
got some
team.
offensive questions for Vanderbilt, but no, I mean, look.
They're,
When you've got 2 of the top 4 or 6 picks in the draft, depending on where you would like Leiter, and I'd like him really high, it's hard to go against that. Nobody has that level of pitching
his
in
slider.
a short series.
His slider looks exactly like the fastball until it doesn't.
He tunnels it.
And his delivery.
Neal is getting so excited for a guy that's going to pitch for the Pittsburgh Pirates.
I'm going to hate him for 6 years. And then I'm going to want to try to sign him in free agency.
I think
we know how these storylines go.
You have talked yourself into.
No, Kumar's really good.
I don't
too.
know, dude.
It's a coin toss.
You're at least having the conversation with yourself.
No, we're having the real conversation. If I'm in a scouting department, we are breaking these 2 people down and figuring it out. Terrified. I would be losing sleep right now with the first pick.
Knowing which way to go.
I'd be losing sleep with the first pick in the draft, knowing that there's 2 of them. The thing about Leiter, as we go to Blake in a second, the thing about Leiter is that damn delivery is the same every
So as
single
of right
pitch.
now, and I say right now, we'll go to Blake in 30 seconds. We might come back to this. As of right now, Kumar 1. This was a couple weeks ago, Baseball America. Kumar 1, Adrian Del Castillo from Miami, the catcher at 2. Jordan Lawler from a high school shortstop at 3. Another high school shortstop at 4.
Nope.
And then Leiter falling to 5 with the Baltimore Orioles.
Well, that'd be good because I don't want him in Pittsburgh.
That would get, Kumar, but you're going to do a Kumar
I
in
know.
Pittsburgh. So, I mean, the good news is you don't have another NL Central team hanging around right there. And they're all way down the list after that.
I'm sure the Cardinals will figure out some way.
They have them and the Brewers taking high school shortstops.
Okay. I'd be fine with that.
And the Cubs taking a catcher, college catcher. I like that.
I don't think that'll happen.
Okay.
Pretty deep at that position.
Gunnar Hoagland to the A's at 25, by the way.
Okay. I was going to call FaceTime audio, so I screwed this up. I'm an idiot.
Down just a touch.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Blake, I think I told you I was going to call you FaceTime audio, but hopefully this works.
Yeah, all good.
Blake Lovell, Blue Ribbon Yearbook, also 14 Southeastern, a lot of baseball, a lot of basketball. Let's talk basketball tournament here. We were talking about this a minute ago with Ole Miss. We'll start here. Your opinion, and I know you've talked to people, what does Ole Miss have to do this week in Nashville to get to the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, I think they need to win 2 to feel good. I think even at that point, it's probably going to depend on what other teams do. But I think if they're able to beat LSU, obviously you got to beat South Carolina first. But I think if they beat LSU, I think they're in because that would give them another good win down their resume. That would add to it. And look, I mean, it's a team that's won 7 of 9 to end the regular season. If they beat South Carolina, you keep doing the math, and all of a sudden that really starts to add up. And I know the NCAA doesn't use the whole last 10 games stuff anymore, but they still pay attention to that kind of thing in terms of are you trending in the right direction or not. And, Ole Miss is trending in the right direction. So I think really what it comes down to is they have to beat South Carolina, no doubt about it. And then I think there's a pretty high chance that they have to beat LSU too. For some people, they're right there on the line right now. I don't think a lot of people have them in. But I think that win against LSU, minus a lot of other teams on the bubble not doing a whole lot to push them out, I think that probably puts them in.
Obviously, South Carolina is just a game Ole Miss has to win. Is there anything in that matchup that worries you from an Ole Miss perspective, or do you think that's a game that if Ole Miss takes care of business, they handle, not easily, but they handle?
I guess the only thing that would worry me if I'm Ole Miss is you just have no idea what you're going to get from South Carolina. I think that's probably the biggest thing in terms of, this team, we've seen them win at Florida. I know they've beaten Georgia twice, but aside from that, there's not a whole lot, and I think this is still a team that when they had that pause for about a month, they just haven't played well. That's kind of what it comes down to, is they're just not a team that I think has been able to kind of get over not having that month in a season to, be on the court and usual practices and play games and all that. And I just think since then, they've been playing from behind in terms of, with these other SEC teams. And really, you look at probably their last several games, and again, I know they won at Georgia, but that's almost like an outlier at this point based on how much they've dominated that series. But aside from that, they've gotten blown out. Probably their last 5 losses have just been blowouts. So I don't know. I think Ole Miss, if they play defense the way that they usually play defense, they should win this game, I think, and pretty much control what South Carolina could do. But otherwise, I think that's it. It's just, you just don't know what South Carolina's going to do.
I'm going to ask you about LSU in a second, but, man, you mentioned Georgia like that, and you're right, South Carolina just handles them. And if Ole Miss can handle Georgia this season, we're not even having this conversation right now. We're talking about, is Ole Miss an 8 seed or a 9 seed? That's where they would be. They would be right. It's unbelievable that if this season ends not in the NCAA tournament, the games that they'll look back will not be – they won't look back and say, we lost in Starkville, or we lost in Tuscaloosa, or we lost in Fayetteville, or LSU got us in Oxford. They'll look back on the 2 games against Georgia, a game at Vanderbilt, and a game at home against Mississippi State. They won't even look at the non-league games. They'll look at those 4 games and go give them 2 of those, and they're probably in the tournament.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're in probably safely if they win 2 of those because – that's the thing is, NCAA tournament teams, a lot of them have bad losses on their resume somewhere, but I think for Ole Miss, like you said, it's just, unfortunately, they've got more than the others, and that has you sort of playing from behind in terms of needing to make it up with getting better wins. And, obviously, I think the way the schedule's set up, losing that game at Vanderbilt did not do them any favors, knowing that was going to be the team that they played again a week later, and, again, that win doesn't do a whole lot for you. So, it's just one of those things to where, they put themselves in the situation, and we talked about kind of the difference with Ole Miss sometimes. It took them a while, I think, offensively still. I don't know that they're to the point that they want to be, just how they play on that side of the floor. But, when they're playing defense, I told someone this earlier, I thought that, Ole Miss's stretch of defense against Vanderbilt, now look, I know it's Vanderbilt, but that was one of the most impressive stretches of defense I've seen in the SEC this season, no matter the opponent. What they did in that first, 10 minutes or so of that second half against Vandy. But it's just, the offense is the thing. And I think that's been one of those where, there have been games where they haven't played a lead on defense. And the problem is they haven't been able to overcome it with their offense. And so, those are the games we look back on if they don't get in and say, man, all we needed to do was win 2 of those, like you said. And I think they're in for sure.
So let's, for the sake of this conversation, assume that Ole Miss beats South Carolina on Thursday. Maybe it's close, maybe it's not, whatever, but Ole Miss scores more points than South Carolina and plays LSU on Friday night. Speaking of erratic teams, LSU is one. There are nights where you're like, man, that is one strong-ass team that is headed to the Final Four, and there are nights when you watch them and go, that is one of the worst coached, least disciplined, unmotivated teams I've watched. I know they're a 3 seed in the league, but they have the kind of talent that, probably should have won the league. Given when you look at their roster against some of the other rosters, it's a difficult matchup for Ole Miss. Is it doable?
I think it is because of what you just said. I'm with you. We talked about it. I look at LSU and people get tired of me talking about LSU, but I get so fascinated with them because you watch them play, and you're like, there's no way this team should be as bad as they are on defense at times because they have legitimately four of the best offensive players in the entire league. Like, I think you could put their four up there with the top 10 offensive players in the entire conference. And yet, they're just frustrating to watch because they just don't always defend very well. And I think that's something to where, there's a lot of different reasons for that. But it's just, I keep looking at LSU in a matchup against a team like Ole Miss. That's like what we just talked about. If Ole Miss is playing to the level that they can on defense, I think they can frustrate the heck out of LSU. But if even an average Ole Miss defense shows up, LSU, I think, has the firepower to outscore Ole Miss. And so I think that's what it comes down to, because really, I just, I don't see a scenario where I'm going to just have full, complete confidence in LSU's defense to the point of where Ole Miss couldn't have, a breakout offensive performance and put up 80-something points against LSU, because we've just seen too many other teams do it this season. So I think it's just one of those things where it's an interesting matchup, and honestly, it's probably a matter of which LSU team showed up. If it's a good one, I think LSU could certainly score a lot of points and win that game, be able to break through some of those things that Ole Miss's defense does so well. If it's a bad LSU, I think all bets are off, and I think Ole Miss can absolutely win that game.
Yeah, if you get the checked out LSU, I can't imagine that Ole Miss. Now I'll say this, and this has been the crazy part about this team, is there's been a couple of times where this team wasn't emotionally ready to play when you would have thought that they would be. But I can't imagine that Friday night Ole Miss isn't playing at a really high mental and emotional level, because they're approaching that game like, if you win, you've got a real shot to get in, and if you lose, you don't. They're going to play that way. That's what you don't get with LSU. It's what I am interested to see in that game is sometimes LSU doesn't really like it when a team kind of plays inside out. LSU would prefer to run and get athletic and all that stuff. Missouri did some of it. They got away from it. Missouri almost pulled it off with Tillman. I want to see whether Ole Miss has the discipline to play a game inside out with Romello White with the season on the line.
Yeah, and I'm with you, because I think, again, Ole Miss, to me, is the kind of team that can frustrate LSU more than a lot of other teams in the league, just based on how they play. Whereas, I don't know, like a team like Arkansas, Alabama, who really just kind of get up and down the court. Yep. It's just sort of a free-flowing type of game. Now, I know LSU got blown out, against Alabama twice, but still, like, that's the kind of game they want to play. And I think if you're Ole Miss, you just completely try to flip that in terms of making them play on defense. If you force LSU to try to play, 20-something seconds plus on defense, I guarantee you're probably going to have a good chance to get an open shot. And so I think that's the thing, is maybe it does become a bit of a grind, but that's the kind of game I think Ole Miss can win. I don't think Ole Miss is going to win a game that's up and down the court 95-90. I just don't see that happening. So they are. Like, they're going to have to work some things inside, try to figure it out that way, because that's the thing, too, with LSU. This isn't a deep team. And so if you can get one of those big four in foul trouble, particularly if you can get Trendon Wofford in foul trouble, that completely changes the dynamic for LSU, not just on offense, but certainly on defense. So I think that's the key in a matchup like that, would be, having Romello White go at someone like Trendon Wofford, get him on the bench, and then I think that completely changes the game in terms of Ole Miss and how they could approach, potentially winning one like that.
A few minutes left with you. I'm curious to get your thoughts on just kind of the motivation for some of the other teams in the tournament. Kermit Davis was talking on Saturday night about how, normally the tournament is kind of a fun experience for teams, especially teams that already have their ticket punched. Their families come, and it's kind of a lot of catching up time between games, and it's kind of laid back, because if you win, awesome, but if you don't, it's all cool because you're going to the tournament. This year, you can't have your family with you at the hotel. You're getting tested all the time. It's really kind of locked down. So some of the fun part of the tournament is gone. The arena's not going to be full, all of those things. For these teams like Alabama, Arkansas, LSU, Tennessee now, Florida, Missouri, probably that group, is there going to be a little bit of a coaching effort, I guess, to have to get guys motivated? Because it would be sort of easy for one of those teams to sort of think to itself, even subconsciously, we're going to Indiana next week. We're about to get tested 7 days in a row, all that stuff. I wouldn't mind getting out of here.
Yeah, I worry about the teams this year. I do it sometimes two, just based on the nature of conference tournaments. And, we've seen that already with whether I think the America East, like their top two seeds got upset after having to sit out for 2 weeks. That's not to the extent in the SEC, but I worry about the teams that have these double byes because, like you said, the atmosphere is so much different this year to where, it's almost like you've got to find a way to motivate yourself, whereas before, you've got 15,000 in the stands and, maybe you got a lot of your fans in there, and it's a completely different dynamic. So, for teams like Alabama and Arkansas, who I think are pretty much already set in terms of where they're going to be seated, I think Arkansas, if they won the SEC tournament, they could probably move up to the 2 with Alabama, depending on what other teams do. But for everyone else, I just don't see a lot of movement based on how this tournament plays out. And like you said, too, we've already had this discussion before about if you're a team that is sitting out there knowing that you are in the NCAA tournament, and you're looking ahead, and you've already looked around, with the Missouri Valley with that Drake Northern Iowa game where Northern Iowa has to forfeit and Drake moves on, and those are possible scenarios in this NCAA tournament. And quite frankly, I think it's probably a likely scenario that we're going to see a game in the NCAA tournament be forfeited, and whoever doesn't have to forfeit is going to move on. I think that's a scenario that could play out. So if you're in these conference tournament situations, that has to be in the back of your mind. And like you said, I would have to imagine that there are some teams that are probably thinking, you know what, it wouldn't be the end of the world if we got out of here pretty quick and then just sat back and waited for the start of the NCAA tournament. So it's so different. And again, we have nothing to compare it to, right? And so that's the hardest part, is just not knowing how some of these teams are going to perform. So I think that makes this year's SEC tournament, even though Alabama and Arkansas are clearly playing better than anyone, I still think it makes the tournament pretty wide open from that aspect.
Yeah, I do too. And you're right. Those are the 2 best teams. Though down the stretch, Alabama has looked a little tired. I think Arkansas looks a little emotionally spent. If I were Nate Oates, if I were Musselman, there's a part of me that I don't know how much I want to – I don't know that I want to be there on Sunday. Now, I think those 2 teams have a legitimate shot of being there on Sunday, but it's kind of interesting. I watched Arkansas – labor with Texas A&M the other day, and they look like their tank's about empty.
Yeah, I look at them, and they're one just I don't know. I feel like we've had this discussion before with teams who have these long streaks towards the end of the year, and the thought is always, well, maybe you just lose one down the stretch, and you actually feel okay knowing that you're not on this big long streak, and all this other stuff. Now, obviously, a team like Gonzaga is something different in that scenario. But, again, we're talking about a team that's just completely different than a lot of teams we've seen throughout the years in college basketball, the way they're made up. But, I don't know. That's one of those where if Arkansas loses that game to A&M, I don't know. What does that change in terms of some of their I think it's a little bit different. And I think when you got a team, like you said, that's just completely been on a roll here lately and going into tournament play with all the confidence in the world, and still, though, like you said, it almost looks like that there are times where, all right, we're having to kind of get ourselves motivated for this, and it's not always easy to do. So I'm curious, man. I think, obviously there are teams out there like Kentucky and some ones like that could make this thing interesting, but I don't know how this thing's going to play out. I go with the boring Alabama and Arkansas, but I'm telling you, I could see so many weird scenarios playing out in this tournament.
All right, last thing, you might have just answered it. Who wins the tournament? And then if the basketball gods came down and said, hey, Blake, it's going to be a non-top 4 seed that wins it. It's not Alabama. It's not Arkansas. It's not LSU. It's not Tennessee. Who would you say?
Ooh, well, I'll stick with Alabama winning it. If I pick outside of the top 4, I would probably go – I think I would go with Florida because I think their bracket sets up the best. And look, I know they're the 5, but Vanderbilt and A&M, I think either one of those may struggle a bit. And this is obviously if Trey Man's on the floor for Florida, which I assume he's going to be. They didn't play against Tennessee, but I just think Florida can beat Tennessee. And then if you're Florida, what if Kentucky were to upset Alabama? Then I think still that's a good matchup for Florida. I don't think necessarily Alabama's a good matchup for Florida.
Yeah.
But that's the team I would take just because I don't know that I feel that way, about the potential path for a team like Missouri. I don't know. I go back and forth on them. So I know Florida's just right outside as the 5, but they're probably the one because I think that side of the bracket is a little bit interesting in terms of the what-if game of Kentucky potentially upsetting Alabama. So I think Florida's probably the pick in that scenario.
How can people follow your work this week?
Yeah, southeastern14.com. That's all of our stuff we got going on. Of course, me and Chris Lee, we got a lot of stuff we're working on. Getting ready for the SEC tournament. You can check everything out over there. And, everything else, you can just follow me on Twitter at Blake Lovell.
Blake, as always, man, appreciate it. Enjoy the tournament. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Neal.
I think I'm with him. I've got Alabama beating LSU in the final.
Pretty scratch.
Yeah. I mean, I've got LSU beating Arkansas in a semi. I don't know why.
Well, I mean, it's just hard to believe anybody puts 4 days together beyond that. I mean,
it is. It's hard. Those teams.
Because I don't believe in Kentucky. I mean, come on.
No, I don't either. I watched them. Who did they play the other day? They played South Carolina, beat the hell out of them. And even then, even when you watch them beat the hell out of people, you're like, yeah, but.
Yeah. Well, and Calipari's basically coaching them like toddlers. It's like every little bitty success, we're going to do this thing.
Yeah.
And like no, there's nothing there. So
it should be a fun tournament though, because it is a totally different dynamic, and with kids and stuff, you kind of go. Not going to be fun. It's not going to be like a normal tournament where let's say you're Alabama and you're a 1 seed, and you get there on Friday and you get your trophy for winning the regular season. Then you play the 8-9 winner, and you get back to the hotel. Let's say you win by 7 or 8 points. You get back to the hotel, and all your family's there, and you kind of hang out in the lobby and visit with everybody and all
nothing
that stuff.
Nothing you're doing matters at all.
Nothing doesn't matter. And at 6 o'clock, you go get dinner. You come back to the hotel. You have some meetings. You look at some scout for the next day. You have a little late-night snack. You go to bed. You get up the next day, and you play in a quarterfinal. Or semifinal.
Yeah, semi.
You wake up and play a Saturday semi, and if you lose, you're the hell out of there. You go home. And if you win, you go back to the hotel, and you do the same thing. Your family's there. You hang out.
And you got
coaches. The coaches stay back at the arena to scout the second semi. You go get some dinner. You come back. You have a quick little scout, because the truth is the coaches don't really care at this point because you're a 2 seed. And the coaches are basically saying, please don't get hurt. Please don't get hurt. Please don't get hurt. You go to bed, you visit with the families and stuff some more. It's not going to be like that. Now you're quarantined at your hotel. You don't get to see any family. Nobody can come to the hotel. Coaches' wives can't stay at the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
You freeze this, huh? I'm kidding. I'm sorry. It was mean. But it's totally different. So you wonder if the kids go, look, we could either be quarantined back home, Tuscaloosa, Fayetteville, Baton Rouge, whatever, or we could sit in this hotel room for 4 freaking days.
Yeah.
And subconsciously you wonder if they're like, I don't know.
Last 5 minutes you go, hey.
I mean, if we win, we win.
Yeah.
I do wonder if there's going to be that fire from those teams.
Yeah.
Because of that. You're human.
Yeah. Podcast brought to you in part by Community Mortgage, Oxford, Memphis, Soto County, and Chattanooga. Underwriting and processing is done in Memphis. They're getting local underwriting and understands your market. A leader in condo financing, the float down option, and more. You can find Jason at 662-234-2704 or JLOWE Community, MTG.com.
We're also brought to you by Pinnacle Trust. Pinnacle Trust based in Madison, Mississippi. They've got clients in more than 20 states, advisors in multiple states as well. They provide detailed, specialized investment management, financial planning, retirement planning for individuals and businesses, and much more. At Pinnacle Trust, investing is treated like a commodity, and decisions are made using objective information and research, not emotions. So regardless of your level of wealth, Pinnacle Trust will sit down with you, listen to your goals, study your expenses, and put forth a comprehensive, detailed financial and retirement plan built just for you. It's pintrust.com, PINNtrust.com. Mention you heard about Pinnacle Trust on the podcast. You get 10% off your first year's fees. Also brought to you by John Edwards, Regency Travel Incorporated in Memphis. He's part of Virtuoso, which is a worldwide network of travel partners that allows John to supply his clients with added values, unique benefits simply not available to other travelers. What you do is you just get in touch with him, you give him some parameters and a budget, and he'll give you options. And no, you don't have to live in or near Memphis to take advantage of his services. 901-494-3387, or send him an email, jedwards@regencytravel.net. Also brought to you by Grenada Nissan. If you're in the market for a Nissan vehicle, Grenada Nissan's the place to go. They've got a complete selection of new and previously owned Nissan vehicles, great lease deals as well. It's GrenadaNissanUSA.com. And we're brought to you by Oxford University Bank, OUB, locally owned and operated right here in Oxford. When you deposit money at OUB, that money and the vast majority of the bank's profits go right back into the Oxford community. OUB gives you the comfort of home, all the benefits the big mega banks provide, all the technology and products you can want, all with a personal touch. And when you call OUB, you speak directly with a live person, no 10 buttons to push, no 5 minutes to wait. To learn more, go to liveoxfordbankoxford.com or call 662-234-6668. I'll have a mailbag up on Wednesday. It is brought to you by Whitney McNutt of Tommy Morgan Incorporated Realtors. Whitney serves you for all your real estate needs in Oxford and Tupelo. She sells condos, land, commercial, and residential family homes. 662-567-2573 or 662-842-3844.
A&M Vanderbilt game is going to put the butts in the seats, isn't it, on Wednesday? I mean, that's going to be a barn burner.
That's probably the one that if you want a ticket, you can actually go.
Yeah, the winner gets Florida the next day.
Yeah.
I mean,
if I'm A&M, I'm like, hey, you guys live here, have it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.